Welcome to the Speak by Design podcast, where we study personal style, message structure, and message strategy so you can become a consistently compelling force. Let's dig in. I want all of you to get so good at putting together a 10-minute talk. And this 10-minute talk is something that you could use to socialize new ideas across your company, to pitch a new vision to the board of directors, to pitch a new way of thinking to investors, to speak to the media. This 10-minute talk is something that you could use again and again and again and polish to such an extent that it becomes a work of art for you. A great talk like this can set up a ripple or chain of events for the next 20 to 30 years. This type of talk is a work of art, and with a work of art, you must concentrate, thoughtfully plan, and craft something that you will be proud of forever. And you might not know exactly what you are going to talk about. It does not need to be something that fits within your current set of responsibilities and even how you're being measured by effectiveness at work. It can be around a value or a wish that you have for organizations around the world, or an idea that you think could help parents, children, every person on the planet. And that's where you get super big and expansive in your thinking is, what is the idea that you have in your heart that you wish you could tell everyone, that everyone could benefit from? And it could be about stress management. It could be about nutrition. Do you remember when Sheryl Sandberg spoke about women needing to lean in? Now, that was a topic we didn't expect the chief operating officer of Facebook to speak about. There was the CEO of Zappos who spoke about happiness. Many CEOs are speaking about topics that don't perfectly align with their product offering, but do align with their values. And that ends up becoming a way to recruit and to increase the visibility and strengthen the reputation of a company. Just because you're passionate about it does help you speak about it in a very natural, sincere way. And it doesn't have to be about your product. For example, if I were CEO of a coffee company, I don't have to speak about coffee. I could speak about good listening. And then maybe at the end, I could talk about how listening is one of our chief values inside our company. And it is how we design every one of our coffee shops to encourage good, deep listening and connection. But I could share very personally about how listening has changed my life as a parent and how it has made me a better wife as well. There's a chief information security officer, Jarrett Beeson, who speaks about his neurodivergent son and how the field of information security is perfectly suited to people who are neurodivergent. And there he has his two passions in life, his family and his work. And he shows how they intersect and what his son has taught him about recruiting and even retention, as well as how to be a better manager and leader for people who think differently than you do. It's a beautiful talk, and I highly recommend it. I once heard someone say, the leader is the message. And that's the way you should look at yourself, is that you are a vessel for the ideas of the company. That if your company had a voice, it is you. You're the voice of the organization, and you are the voice of the culture, the values, the mission, the vision. And that's why a beautiful 10-minute talk does so many wonderful things for you. So in this 10-minute talk, you want to make sure you hit upon mission, vision, and values somewhere in the ingredients. And then I'm going to give you a framework that I find very effective for these 10-minute talks. It is first to begin with a dilemma or problem. And this is bad news. This is something that will create fear, anxiety, maybe a mild depression in your audience for a moment. It can startle them even. The reason we need that is we need the audience to focus, and dilemmas help us with that. But we're going to take them out of their pain right after we articulate the dilemma in a convincing, credible way. Make sure there's data in there. We're going to take them out of that pain with the answer. But the answer is going to be a theme. It could be a value. And that theme needs further explanation. But what's nice about putting that answer second is that we've taken them into a more hopeful, satisfied state for the moment with the answer. Then we're going to clear a myth. And the myth is going to be a lot of people think X, but they're wrong. And this is where you help audiences get very clear that maybe what they thought was true is not true. Or you introduce how much confusion there is on this topic. And this is why we haven't been able to answer it. We've been so confused. So the third ingredient is all about clearing the myth or many myths about your topic. And, there was a lot of talks. You can find a lot of talks where people are debunking concepts. Audiences love it when you clear up confusion. So that's why step 3 needs to be clearing of the myths, and you can have one or many. If you have too many, that's going to become the whole speech is you debunking ideas, and that's not necessarily where you need to go for this one. You could do 3 myths, but I wouldn't do more than that, and 1 is enough. Then after that, we're going to share some good news. And this good news, you can make it as sunny and positive as you want because the good news is related to the myth. And you'll say, well, now we've got that cleared up. That helps us understand that X is possible. That helps us achieve new heights. That's going to save us so much pain. All right, so you give some good news, then you give new bad news. And this bad news, we're going to take the audience back down again to a new struggle, a struggle that was unintended and nobody could have ever prepared for. Then after that, we're going to give some data. And this is data that is provoking. It's got a dark side and a positive side to it. So make sure you hit the positive side, because then we're going to tell one story that relates to that data right after that. And the story, this is when you have the option of going personal. It could be your own story with that, or it could be the story of a customer, or it could be the story of a competitor, but it's a story. And then the last ingredient is your picture of the future, where you see the opportunities and the positive things that could emerge from all of this. Okay, when you put these ingredients together and you use rhetorical question and you share quotations and anecdotes and you repeat phrases that you want them to memorize, that you want them to remember at the end of the talk, and you have evocative visuals, and you have moments where you step closer to the audience and pull your body back from the audience. And maybe there's a moment where you actually ask the audience a question. That becomes captivating, riveting, and you can stylize this 10-minute talk into becoming more of a performance. And nothing silly, nothing over the top and concocted, but something that you feel so comfortable delivering that you could deliver it in a moment's notice. You could make it interactive. You don't need a teleprompter. You know it so well. Now, let's imagine that you are a CEO and you're articulating a vision and you want to use this framework for that. It works equally as well. And you begin with the dilemma, usually the market dilemma, and what convergence of things have happened to make things difficult for your customer or client. Then you get to an answer in a theme, usually that highlights a need for change. Then you clear the myth or the myths around this topic. Is that we customers think this, but it's not that. It's actually this other thing. The market thinks this, but it's not that. It's actually this other thing. You clear the myths, then you go to good news and bad news. And good news is going to be good news is we have all the right people in this room to tackle this problem. And the bad news could be that we don't have a deep amount of experience in this area, or we have too many people that need help right now, or we're short on a skill set. But this bad news is going to be around the gaps that the organization has that are going to fuel all the leaps the organization needs to take, all the changes that need to occur in the people, the processes, and the technology. Then, after you get through good news, bad news, you're ready to go into some data. And the data can be on numbers from the previous year, or you could go even further back in time. You could go to 3 years ago, or you could say pre COVID, we used to do things this way. Your data could be around number of people, number of hours, number of geographies. It could be around the dollar amount of spend or revenue or margin percentages. But that data is going to precede a very interesting story. Now, the story, some people will say, how recent does the story have to be? The fresher stories resonate really well with people because it's something they haven't heard before. But an old story from the past that people are familiar with that was incredibly successful and everybody knows the success of that past event, that actually might be more convincing for your audience to hear that story revived. And maybe they've forgotten that story. There might be people in the room who have never heard that story before. You're looking for a story that is going to have maximum impact. And sometimes you don't know what that is until you try it out on different audiences. And then the last piece is the picture the future. If you're using this sequence for a vision, the picture the future, which is going to be the vision statement plus the plan, goes into this last section here. And the plan can be not a detailed Gantt chart type plan, but a plan that focuses on the priorities. And we encourage you to get that to 3 priorities that are strategic objectives for the organization. And that is your talk. Now, you're not ready just yet because we want to apply storytelling features to this. So, in storytelling, you know that you have characters, and the most important character being the hero. And the hero of this 10-minute talk is either your customer or your employee. And most often, if it's an internal town hall, it's going to be the employee. If it's a message to the media, it's going to be the customer that you're talking about. Then we need to look for the villains. In the dilemma section that happens at the top of the message, this is where you introduce all of the villains. You can have some emerge again when you talk about the bad news, and you could have some that appear in the data and maybe they emerge again in the story. The villains can be repeated because that's only going to strengthen the conflict of the rising action in your message. Now, what about the guide? And often people will say, well, you are the guide, the speaker is the guide. You could make your organization the guide in how you solve your customers' problems and pain. You could make a team the guide in how they're going to lead the change effort. It doesn't always have to be you, the speaker, as the guide. Next thing to examine closely is the data section, as well as any other places in the message where you are putting numbers. You want to make sure that the numbers that you're sharing are always being compared to another number. So if you say we had 10 people come to the event, that you have later explained that the year before we had 1,000 people, so that we know that 10 number is a small number. Every number that you share, for you to make it mean something to the audience, it has to be compared to a different number. We also want this 10-minute talk to not feel like a business presentation. And to do so, we use the storytelling techniques of a good opening sentence and closing sentence. In the opening, can you begin at a very clear point in time? Something like this. It all started in 2018 in San Diego with 2 cell phones. That's an example of a way you could begin. And then for your closing, your picture of the future section, you've shared the outcome that you envision, which could be a dollar amount or a number of customers served or a way of doing business or being recognized as the number one provider in your industry or subsector. That is a really nice ending, but then we want one more thing after that. And after that, you could use one of the strong close elements where you repeat something you said in the beginning. But this last bit gets to that happily ever after feeling, or that feeling of everybody in this room can feel confident that we can achieve this because we'll be doing it together. A feeling of that of unity, of solidarity, clarity as well, and further convincing them that this is a thoughtful, well organized idea and plan. That's what you want to leave them with. When you are studying great speakers, which we encourage you to do, and on YouTube, we've made a playlist. And if you look up Speak by Design, we have something called a playlist on our channel. And we have curated a whole bunch of great speakers you can watch and get ideas from how they open and close. Listen to the first few minutes and then listen to the last few minutes. You can get so many great ideas from watching others. After you have this beautiful content put together, it's time to start practicing it out loud in front of the mirror, recording it, delivering it to people who will listen, and family members count. Coworkers are going to be kinder to you, but sometimes coworkers, a good trusted coworker, will give you the hardest feedback on the messages because they know your audiences best and they know what will be clear to them and not clear. But coworkers sometimes do not give good feedback on clarity because they themselves speak the language and know all the jargon, and they are cursed with knowing too much and therefore don't understand always how to make it simple. When you have this message put together and you put some visuals to it, not too many. So with each ingredient, dilemma, answer, clear the myth, data, story, good news, bad news, picture the future, you could get through that content with 7 slides. And I encourage you to constrain yourself to 7 visuals if you can. And being comfortable taking the visuals to black so that the audience has no other option but to stare at you, because you are the primary basis of impact in a message like this, not the slides. And definitely, if you're using charts, only 1 chart per slide. And the simpler the chart, the better. 2 colors is better than 3, 4, or more colors. Limit the ability to get confused in your visuals and make the visuals so appealing that they enrich the emotional impact of what you're saying. That's a good visual. All right, now the next step in all of this is going to be marketing this talk, because now we need to get audiences excited to listen to you. And that's a marketing job. and that will be our next lesson. So stay tuned. These lessons have built upon one another. You have worked on the strong starts and closes. Now we worked on structuring the message. And then the next lesson is about how to get people wildly excited to meet you and listen to you. And that's in lesson 20 coming up. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. If you are enjoying all of these lessons, but now you're hungering to turn all of this into skills and habits that make this work intuitive and natural so that you don't have to think about it, then you want to join Speak by Design University. That's our coaching program that gives you private coaching, group coaching with me, group training, self-paced learning, as well as exceptional networking with other people like you. This program is for managers and above, people whose careers are on fire and they're looking to hit their next level, and they want to do that sooner rather than later. Check it out at speakbydesign.com/join. That's speakbydesign.com/join, and you can start with us at the 1st of next month. We hope to see you there.